Hello, my name is Limbach, and I'm pursuing the Joint Masters in EU Trade and Climate Diplomacy at Lewis and CEF. My thesis investigates how the European Union integrates unilateral environmental regulation, exemplified by the EU Deforestation Regulation, short EUDR, with bilateral trade mechanisms, notably the EU-Mercosur Association Agreement, short EUMA. While existing research extensively covers the EUDR's impact on global supply chains, few studies address the interaction between these unilateral instruments and negotiated trade agreements, particularly how the EU aligns its regulatory assertiveness with Mercosur countries. My thesis fills this gap by examining the interface between the EUDR and EUMA and exploring the legal and governance challenges it creates. This research is critical both academically and practically. It advances our understanding of the EU's concept of open strategic autonomy, how the EU navigates between regulatory assertiveness and multilateral trade diplomacy. Practically, it informs policymakers and businesses on how to balance environmental objectives with equitable market access, especially under evolving green trade frameworks. I used process tracing, analyzing legal texts, institutional processes, and professional interviews. The study includes close textual reading of the EUDR and EUMA, and semi-structured interviews with Commission officials and Mercosur experts like Paoli Guazzotti and Mark van Heukelen. I found that while the EUDR and EUMA are framed as complementary in EU rhetoric, they operate on highly distinct legal logics. The EUDR imposes binding due diligence, whereas the EUMA relies on softer institutional mechanisms, like certification recognition and civil society forums. This asymmetry creates practical and policy coherence gaps. My thesis concludes that without strategic coordination, the EUMA runs the risk of undermining rather than supporting the EUDR. The divergence in enforcement mechanisms, hard market rules venues versus soft dialogue frameworks, threatens both sustainability goals and trade relationships. For policymakers, this means implementing clear guidance that prioritizes EUDR due diligence obligations while treating EUMA mechanisms as supportive instruments. Harmonization through certification equivalence frameworks, joint technical assistance, empowered civil society oversight is essential. Businesses benefit from a practical regulatory environment that supports compliance and trade. In some, synchronizing trade and environment policies is not only desirable, it is indispensable for credible, sustainable EU-Mercosur cooperation.